The scent of copper and rain hit Gemma Thorne before she even saw the man bleeding out on the clinic floor. She'd been working night shift at the city's free clinic for 3 years now, and nothing should have surprised her anymore. Knife wounds, overdoses, desperate people stumbling through the doors at 3 in the morning, begging for help they couldn't afford anywhere else. But this was different. The man sprawled across the linoleum wasn't desperate or afraid. He was furious. His pale fingers clutched against a wound that split his side open, and his eyes blazed silver in the fluorescent lighting. "Help me." His voice carried command, not plea. Even dying, he sounded like someone used to being obeyed. Gemma dropped her coffee and ran for the exam room, grabbing gloves and supplies. "Can you walk? I need you on the table." He rose with impossible grace for someone losing that much blood, his movements fluid despite the wound. Up close, she could see he was breathtaking in a way that made her breath catch. White blonde hair fell past his shoulders, and his skin held that perfect pallor that suggested he'd never seen sunlight. His features were sharp, aristocratic, and when he looked at her, she felt the weight of centuries in that gaze. "Lie down," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Tell me what happened." "I was ambushed." He settled onto the exam table, his blood seeping through his shirt, expensive fabric, she noticed, the kind that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Silver-tipped blade. The wound won't close on its own." Silver. The word triggered something in her memory, all those old stories her grandmother used to tell. But that was impossible. Vampires weren't real. They couldn't be real. Gemma cut away his shirt, revealing the wound beneath. Deep, precise, meant to kill. And around the edges, the flesh looked burned, corrupted. She'd never seen anything like it. "I need to get the silver out," she said, reaching for her instruments. "This is going to hurt." His hand shot out, catching her wrist with inhuman speed. His skin was cool against hers, his grip firm but not painful. "You're not afraid." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "But you'll die if I don't help you, and I became a nurse to save lives. Even impossibly beautiful strangers who bleed silver burn blood onto my floor." She met his eyes steadily. "So either let me work, or leave and die somewhere else." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, perhaps, or approval. He released her wrist. "My name is Xavros Drakenmoor. Remember it, little nurse. You're about to save the life of the Vampire King." Her hands trembled as she began to work, extracting fragments of silver from deep within the wound. He didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, but she could feel the tension in his body, see the way his jaw clenched. Vampire King. The words echoed in her mind, impossible and yet undeniable. What else could he be, with that otherworldly beauty, that pale perfection? "Who stabbed you?" she asked, trying to focus on the task, on the familiar rhythm of sutures and antiseptic. "Enemies who think the throne should belong to someone else." His voice was tight with pain. "My court has grown complacent. They believe because we've hidden from humans for centuries that we're safe from threats. Tonight proved otherwise." "Are they still looking for you?" "Undoubtedly." His eyes tracked her movements, watching as she cleaned and stitched with practiced efficiency. "But they won't think to look here. The great Vampire King seeking help from a human in a free clinic." He laughed, the sound dark and bitter. "My pride will never recover." "Your pride can handle it if it keeps you alive." Gemma worked steadily, removing the last fragments of silver. The wound looked better already, the angry burns fading slightly now that the poison was gone. "These stitches should hold, but you need to rest. Let your body heal." "I can't." He sat up too quickly, and she pushed him back down with both hands against his bare chest. His skin was cool marble beneath her palms, perfectly sculpted muscle that made her mouth go dry. "You can, and you will," she said firmly. "I don't care if you're the Vampire King or the Emperor of the Moon. You just had major surgery and you're staying put until dawn at least." Xavros stared at her, those silver eyes intense and searching. "You command me?" "I'm your doctor right now, which means yes." She pulled a blanket over him, trying to ignore how her heart raced at his proximity. "Rest, I'll watch the door." He caught her hand as she turned away, his fingers threading through hers. "Why are you helping me? You know what I am now." Gemma looked down at their joined hands, his pale skin against her brown fingers. "Because everyone deserves to be saved, and because something tells me letting the Vampire King die on my watch would be bad for my health in the long run. His lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. Practical and brave. A dangerous combination. He released her hand slowly. Very well, Gemma Thorne. I'll rest. But only until dawn. She blinked. How do you know my name? He gestured to her ID badge with one elegant hand. I can read, little nurse. Right, she felt her cheeks heat. Of course. The next hours passed in strange suspension. Gemma tried to focus on her other patients, a homeless woman with pneumonia, a teenager who'd broken his wrist skateboarding, but her attention kept drifting back to the exam room where Xavros lay. She'd left the door cracked, and every time she glanced over, she found him watching her. Around 4 in the morning, she brought him water and some protein bars from the vending machine. I don't suppose you actually eat food. I can. He accepted the water, drank it in a few long swallows. But it doesn't sustain me. Blood. She said it flatly, needing to hear it confirmed. Blood. His eyes held hers. Does that disturb you? Should it? Gemma sat down in the chair beside the exam table. You're a vampire. It's not like you can survive on juice and hope. She paused. Do you kill people? No. The answer came swift and sharp. Our laws forbid it, have for centuries. We have suppliers, blood banks we control, willing donors who understand what we are. He shifted on the table. She noticed the wound had already begun to close, the edges knitting together with supernatural speed. Despite what your stories say, we're not monsters. We're simply another species trying to survive in a world that fears us. That's why you hide. That's why we hide, he agreed. Humans outnumber us thousands to one. If they knew we existed, truly knew, they would hunt us to extinction. So we stay in the shadows, maintain our courts beneath the city, and pretend to be myths and legends. Gemma processed this, her mind racing. The courts? You mentioned that before. How many vampires are there? In this city? Perhaps 500? Worldwide? He shrugged. Tens of thousands? We're old, little nurse. Older than your civilizations. We've watched empires rise and fall, seen humanity grow from scattered tribes to masters of the world, and through it all, we've adapted, survived. And you're their king. I am, pride rang in his voice. I've held the throne for 3 centuries, maintained the peace between courts, enforced the laws that keep us hidden. But there are always those who want power, who think they can rule better. His jaw tightened. Tonight's attack was orchestrated by Lord Corvus, a rival who believes strength matters more than wisdom. He'll come for me again. Then you need protection. Guards, or whatever vampires have. I have guards. They were with me when we were ambushed. Xavros's expression darkened. 3 of them died, buying me time to escape. The others are scattered, in hiding until it's safe to regroup. Corvus has spies everywhere, even in my own household. I couldn't risk leading him to my allies. So you came here, to a free clinic where no one would think to look, and found a stubborn nurse who refuses to let me die. That almost smile again. Fate works in strange ways. Before Gemma could respond, the clinic doors burst open. She shot to her feet, her heart hammering, but it was just Marcus, the security guard, wrestling with a drunk who wanted to fight the vending machines. She hurried out to help, administering a mild sedative and getting the man settled in a quiet corner to sleep it off. When she returned to the exam room, Xavros was standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. His wound had closed completely, leaving only a pale scar that would probably fade within hours. He'd found his ruined shirt and draped it around his shoulders like a cloak, and even in his damaged state, he looked every inch the king he claimed to be. Dawn's coming, he said quietly. I can feel it. Gemma checked her watch. 5:30. The sky was already lightening to gray, the stars fading. You need to go? I should. But he didn't move. The sunlight will burn me. Not immediately. I'm old enough to withstand it for a short time, but I'd prefer not to test my limits. Then stay. The words came out before she could stop them. My shift ends at 6. I have an apartment 20 minutes from here. The windows have blackout curtains because I sleep during the day. She met his eyes. You'd be safe there. You could rest, really rest, and figure out your next move. Xavros turned from the window, and the full force of his attention made her feel pinned in place. "You would invite a vampire into your home, grant me access to your sanctuary?" "I would invite someone who needs help into my home," she corrected, "and something tells me you won't hurt me." "How can you be sure?" "I can't." Gemma lifted her chin. "But I've spent the last 3 hours watching you. And I'm a pretty good judge of character. You're dangerous." "Oh, yes. Powerful. But you're not cruel. And right now, you need somewhere safe to hide." He crossed the space between them in a blur of movement that made her gasp. Suddenly he was there, inches away, his cool breath ghosting across her skin. "You're either very brave or very foolish, Gemma Thorne." "Probably both." Her voice came out breathless. "Is that a yes?" His hand came up to cup her cheek, his touch gentle despite the strength she could sense coiled in his body. "You're going to be the death of me, little nurse, or my salvation. I haven't decided which yet." He stepped back, releasing her. "Yes, I accept your offer." The drive to her apartment felt surreal. Gemma's beat-up Honda seemed too mundane a vehicle for a vampire king, but Xavros folded his long frame into the passenger seat without complaint. He watched the city pass by with ancient eyes, and she wondered what it was like to see a place change over centuries, to watch the skyline grow and shift while you remained frozen in time. "How old are you?" she asked. "Really?" "I was born in the year 1342, he said. "Made vampire in 1367. I've been walking this earth for over 600 years. 600 years. The number was incomprehensible. What was it like? The world back then? Different. Simpler in some ways, more brutal in others. He glanced at her. Magic was more common then. Not just vampires, there were other creatures, other beings that have since faded or hidden even deeper than we have. The world had more shadows, more mysteries. Now it has electricity and science, and people who think they have explained away all the darkness. He smiled. They're wrong, of course. Gemma pulled into her apartment complex, a modest building in a quiet neighborhood. It's not much, she warned. Studio apartment, barely room for one person, let alone two. I've slept in coffins and crypts and dungeons, Xavros said dryly. I'm sure I'll manage. Her apartment was exactly as she'd described, small, neat, dominated by the bed that took up most of the floor space. Bookshelves lined one wall, crammed with romance novels and medical textbooks. The kitchenette was tiny, the bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. But it was hers, her sanctuary after long nights at the clinic. Xavros moved to the window immediately, testing the blackout curtains. These will do. The sun won't penetrate. He turned back to her, and in the dim pre-dawn light, he looked ethereal, otherworldly. Thank you. For your help. For this. You're welcome. Gemma set her bag down, suddenly nervous. She had a vampire in her apartment, the Vampire King. What was the protocol for this? Are you hungry? Thirsty? I have blood. Well, no, I don't have blood. That would be weird. I have food. Human food. I fed 2 days ago. I won't need to feed again for another few days at least. He moved closer, studying her face. But you should eat. Sleep. You've been working all night. I'm fine. You're exhausted. I can hear your heartbeat, the way it's struggling. You're running on adrenaline and caffeine. His hand came up to brush a strand of hair from her face. Sleep, little nurse, I'll keep watch. You're the one who needs rest. I'm already healed. You're the fragile one now. There was something almost tender in his voice. Let me protect you just this once. You've done so much for me. Gemma wanted to argue, but exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. She'd been up for nearly 20 hours, and her body was screaming for rest. Okay, but you'll wake me if something happens? If you need anything? I swear it. She changed in the bathroom, trading her scrubs for soft pajamas, and when she emerged, Xavros had settled into the single chair by the window. He looked comfortable there, utterly still in that way vampires had, like a statue carved from marble. Gemma climbed into bed, pulling the covers up. Thank you, she said softly, for letting me help you. Thank you for saving my life. His eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. Sleep well, Gemma Thorne. You're safe with me. She believed him, and that should have been terrifying, but instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Her eyes drifted closed, and within moments, she was asleep. Gemma woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving in her kitchen. For a moment, she was disoriented, then memory flooded back. Xavros, the vampire, She sat up quickly, her heart racing. He stood by her tiny stove, somehow making instant coffee in her battered kettle. He'd removed his ruined shirt completely, and in the dim light filtering through the curtains, his bare torso was a work of art. Pale skin stretched over perfect muscle, unmarred except for the faint scar where she'd stitched him. His white hair fell loose around his shoulders, and when he turned to look at her, his silver eyes were warm. "You slept for 6 hours," he said. "I thought you might want coffee." "You made me coffee." She rubbed her eyes, trying to process this. "The Vampire King made me coffee. I may be immortal, but I remember how humans function." He brought her a mug, the liquid dark and steaming. "Though I'll admit, your coffee-making apparatus is somewhat rudimentary compared to what I'm used to." Gemma took the mug gratefully, letting the warmth seep into her hands. "Sorry, my studio apartment doesn't meet royal standards." "I didn't mean it as criticism." He sat on the edge of her bed, close enough that she could feel the coolness radiating from his skin. "I meant, I'm used to servants doing everything for me. It felt good to do something simple, normal. Must be strange being king." "It's lonely," he said quietly. "Everyone wants something from you. Power, favor, protection. No one sees you as anything but the crown, the throne." His eyes met hers. "But you didn't know what I was when you helped me. You just saw someone bleeding, someone who needed saving. Do you know how rare that is? How precious?" Gemma's throat tightened. "I'm nothing special, just a nurse." "You're everything special." His hand covered hers where it rested on the blanket. "In 600 years, I've met perhaps a handful of people with your courage, your compassion. You could have turned me away, called the authorities, run screaming. Instead, you stitched my wounds and brought me to your home. You trusted me. I still trust you." The words felt important, weighted. "I know I probably shouldn't. We just met. You're dangerous. But I do." Xavros leaned closer, and Gemma's breath caught. This close, she could see the faint silver veins that traced beneath his skin, the way his pupils dilated as he looked at her. "I haven't felt this way in centuries," he murmured. "This pull, like something in me recognizes something in you." "What do you feel?" Her voice came out barely a whisper. "Like you're mine to protect, mine to cherish." His thumb stroked across her knuckles, cool and gentle. "Like I would burn the world for you, and we've only known each other a handful of hours. It's madness." "Maybe," Gemma set her coffee aside with trembling hands, "or maybe it's just right." He kissed her then, and it was nothing like she'd imagined kissing a vampire would be. His lips were cool but soft, moving against hers with careful reverence, as if she were something precious and breakable. She threaded her fingers through his hair, pulling him closer, and he made a sound low in his throat that sent heat spiraling through her body. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, though she suspected he didn't actually need to breathe, Xavros rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates things." "Does it have to? I'm being hunted by enemies who want me dead. You're a human living a mortal life. The complications are endless." But he didn't pull away. If anything, he held her tighter. "I should leave. Put distance between us before this goes any further. It would be safer for you." "I don't want safe." Gemma cupped his face, feeling the sharp line of his jaw beneath her palms. "I want this. Whatever this is." "You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me. Explain it." Xavros pulled back, standing and pacing her small apartment like a caged wolf. "If I claim you, truly claim you, the entire vampire world will know. You'll become a target for my enemies, a weakness they can exploit. And vampire enemies are not kind, Gemma. They would use you to hurt me, torture you to break me. You would never be safe again. But I'd be with you." "For how long?" His voice turned harsh. "You'll age and die while I remain frozen in time. I'll watch you grow old, watch you sicken, watch you slip away. I've done it before, lost people I cared about to time and mortality. It never gets easier." Gemma stood, crossing to him. "What if I became like you?" The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Xavros stared at her. You don't know what you're saying. Don't I? She met his gaze steadily. You said vampires are made, not born. You were human once. What if I chose to become vampire? Then we'd have time. All the time in the world. The transformation is agony, he said flatly. 3 days of feeling your body die and remake itself. Many don't survive it. And even if you did, you'd be giving up everything: sunlight, your humanity, the possibility of children. You'd be frozen at this age forever, watching everyone you love die around you. It's a curse as much as a gift. Every life has trade-offs. Gemma took his hands, lacing their fingers together. I'm not saying I want to decide right now. We barely know each other. But I'm saying I want the chance to know you, really know you. And if that means facing danger, if it means eventually choosing to become what you are, maybe that's a choice I want to make. Xavros searched her face, his expression torn between hope and fear. You're the bravest person I've ever met, or the most foolish. Still going with both, she smiled. What do you want, Xavros? Not what's safe or practical. What do you want? You. The word came out raw, honest. I want you. I want to court you properly, show you my world, give you every luxury and pleasure I can provide. I want to wake up to you every evening and spend my nights learning everything about you. I want to hear you laugh, see you smile, watch you live. He cupped her face with both hands. I want forever with you, even though I know it's selfish and dangerous and probably doomed. Then let's be selfish. Gemma rose on her toes, kissing him again. Let's be dangerous. Let's figure out the doom part later. His arms came around her, pulling her flush against his body, and this kiss was deeper, hungrier. She could feel the careful control in the way he touched her, the way he held himself back. And she loved him for it, even as she wanted to shatter that control completely. They spent the rest of the day tangled together in her small bed, talking and kissing and learning the geography of each other's bodies. Xavros told her stories of his long life, the courts he'd navigated, the battles he'd fought, the centuries of politics and power plays. Gemma shared her own history growing up poor in the city, working her way through nursing school, the satisfaction of helping people no one else would help. You're wasted in that clinic, Xavros murmured against her hair. You should be running a hospital, revolutionizing medicine. I like the clinic. I like helping people who can't afford fancy hospitals. Then I'll fund it, he said it casually, as if it were nothing. Whatever you need. New equipment, more staff, better security. Consider it done. Gemma pulled back to look at him. You can't just throw money at my problems. Why not? I have more wealth than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Let me use it for something that matters. His fingers traced patterns on her back. Let me help you help others. She didn't have words. That's incredibly generous. You saved my life. This is the least I can do. They were interrupted by a knock at the door, sharp and insistent. Gemma tensed, but Xavros was already moving, positioning himself between her and the door with supernatural speed. Stay back, he ordered softly. Who is it? Gemma called. A friend of the king's. The voice from outside was cultured, male. Please, I mean no harm. I've been searching for him since last night. Xavros relaxed slightly. Theron, it's safe. He opened the door, revealing another vampire, this one shorter than Xavros, with the same white hair and pale skin, but softer features. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with military precision. My lord, Theron swept into the apartment, his relief visible. Thank the ancient darkness, you're alive. We feared the worst when you didn't return. I was injured. This woman saved me. Xavros gestured to Gemma. Gemma Thorne, this is Theron, my captain of the guard and oldest friend. Theron's gaze swept over her, assessing. You have our eternal gratitude, Miss Thorne. If there's anything we can do to repay you. She's not accepting payment, Xavros cut in. And she's under my protection now. Spread the word. Anyone who harms her answers to me personally. Something shifted in Theron's expression. Surprise, perhaps, or concern. My lord, is that wise? Corvus is still hunting you. If he learns of her, he won't. Xavros's voice turned hard, commanding. No one outside my inner circle learns of Gemma's existence. Am I clear? Crystal. My lord? Theron bowed. But we need to discuss strategy. Corvus has consolidated his support. At least a third of the court sides with him now. We need to act. Xavros's jaw tightened. Then we'll act, but not here. He turned to Gemma. I have to go. Deal with this threat before it grows worse. But I'll return tonight after your shift. We'll figure this out together. Be careful, Gemma said, her heart clenching with fear. Please. He kissed her, deep and possessive, uncaring that Thorne was watching. I'll come back to you. I swear it. And then he was gone, both vampires disappearing out the door like smoke. Gemma stood in her empty apartment, her lips still tingling from his kiss, and wondered what she'd gotten herself into. The next week passed in a blur of stolen moments and growing danger. Xavros came to her every night after her shift, and they would spend the hours until dawn wrapped in each other, talking and touching and falling deeper into whatever this was between them. He told her about the vampire court, the intricate politics that governed his people. She learned about the different vampire houses, the ancient bloodlines, the laws that kept their society functioning. In return, she showed him her world. They went to late-night diners where he watched her eat with fascination. She took him to the park at midnight, laughing as he tried and failed to understand the appeal of swings. They visited the 24-hour bookstore, and she introduced him to modern romance novels, which he proclaimed both scandalous and delightful. But underneath the joy, danger gathered. Corvus was making moves, challenging Xavros's authority openly. There had been 2 more attacks on vampires loyal to the king, and tension in the vampire court was reaching a breaking point. He's forcing a confrontation, Xavros told her one night, pacing her apartment with restless energy. He wants to meet me in formal combat. Winner takes the throne. Gemma's blood ran cold. That's a fight to the death? It can be, usually is. He saw her expression and crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. I'm stronger than Corvus, older, more powerful. I'll win. You can't know that for certain. No, he admitted, but I have something he doesn't, something worth fighting for. He kissed her forehead. I have you. Then let me be there. Let me help. Absolutely not. His voice turned hard. Vampire court politics are deadly, Gemma. One wrong word, one perceived insult, and you could be killed before I could stop it. I won't risk you. I'm not fragile. You're human. He cupped her face, his expression intense. You're breakable and mortal and precious beyond measure. I've already lost too much in my long life. I won't lose you too. They argued about it for hours, but Xavros wouldn't budge. Finally, exhausted, Gemma gave in. Fine, but you better come back to me, because if you die and leave me alone, I'll find a way to bring you back just so I can kill you myself. He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. I believe you would. He sobered, brushing his thumb across her lower lip. I need to tell you something, before the challenge, in case... Don't. Gemma pressed her fingers to his lips. Don't say goodbye. Just tell me. I love you. The words were simple, profound. I've loved you since that first night, when you looked at me bleeding and broken and decided to save me anyway. You're my salvation, Gemma Thorne. My light in the darkness, and whatever happens tomorrow night, I need you to know that. Tears pricked her eyes. I love you too, so much it terrifies me. Good. He kissed her slow and deep. Fear means it matters. Fear means it's real. They made love that night with desperate intensity, clinging to each other as if they could hold back the dawn through sheer force of will. When he finally left, slipping away as the sun threatened the horizon, Gemma felt like part of her soul went with him. Her shift at the clinic that night was torture. Every minute dragged, and she kept checking her phone obsessively, waiting for word. Xavros had promised Thorne would contact her when the challenge was over, one way or another. The call came at 3 a.m. Gemma's hands shook as she answered. Hello? Miss Thorne. Theron's voice was tight, strained. The king asks that you come to the court, immediately. Her heart stopped. Is he alive? Yes, but there have been complications. He needs you. I'm sending a car. The car arrived within minutes. A sleek black vehicle driven by a vampire woman with ice-blue eyes who introduced herself as Selene. They drove into the warehouse district, pulling up before a building that looked abandoned from the outside. But when Selene led her through a hidden door and down stone stairs that seemed to descend forever, Gemma realized this was only an entrance. The real court lay beneath. The vampire realm was breathtaking. Vast caverns had been carved into a palace, all soaring ceilings and Gothic architecture. Chandeliers cast warm light over marble floors and rich tapestries. Vampires in elaborate clothing moved through the halls, all of them turning to stare as Gemma passed. She'd never felt more human, more out of place. But she lifted her chin and followed Celine deeper into the palace, through doors that opened into what could only be a throne room. Xavros stood in the center, surrounded by his guards. He was alive, whole, but covered in blood, his own and others. His clothes were torn, his hair disheveled, and when he saw her, relief flooded his face. Gemma. He crossed to her in 3 long strides, pulling her against him despite the blood, despite the watching crowd. "You're here. What happened?" Theron said complications. "Corvus is dead." Xavros's voice was flat. "I killed him in single combat, as was my right. But before he died, he revealed that his rebellion had backing from outside our court. There's a faction vampires from other cities who want to see our laws changed. They want to stop hiding, reveal ourselves to humanity, take what they believe is rightfully ours." Gemma pulled back to look at him. "You mean they want war?" "Yes." His jaw tightened. "Corvus was just a pawn in a larger game. And now that I've removed him, the real players will make their move. They'll come for me, for my throne, for you. Then we fight them." Gemma's voice was steady. "Together." "It's not that simple." Xavros glanced at the assembled vampires, all of them watching with avid interest. "There are rules, protocols. If I want to protect you properly, there's only one option." He took her hands, sinking to one knee before her. The throne room went absolutely silent. "Gemma Thorne," he said, his voice carrying through the vast space. "I know we've known each other only days. I know this is fast and probably insane, but I've lived 600 years, and I've never felt for anyone what I feel for you. You're my heart, my light, my reason to keep fighting. So I'm asking, before my court and my people, will you marry me? Will you become my queen and let me spend eternity protecting you, loving you, worshiping you?" Gemma's breath caught. Around them, vampires whispered in shock and excitement. This was huge, she realized. The king taking a human bride. It was unprecedented. "If I say yes," she said slowly, "what happens?" "We marry immediately, by vampire law. I can't transform you yet. It takes time to prepare, to make sure your body can survive the change. But as my betrothed, you'll be under the full protection of the crown. Anyone who harms you commits treason punishable by death. And when you're ready, when you're certain, I'll make you vampire, give you eternity at my side." "And if I say no?" Pain flickered across his face. "Then I'll still protect you with everything I have. But it will be harder. My enemies will see you as a weakness rather than a strength, and he swallowed hard, "I'll respect your choice, even if it kills me." Gemma looked at him, this impossible, beautiful man who'd walked into her life bleeding and broken and somehow become everything. She thought about her small apartment, her quiet life. She thought about the centuries stretching ahead, the danger and politics and complications. Then she thought about the way he looked at her, like she was his whole world, the way he made her feel brave and precious and powerful, the way her heart sang every time he was near. "Yes," she said clearly, "yes, I'll marry you." The throne room erupted in cheers. Xavros surged to his feet, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around. When he kissed her, it was in front of his entire court, claiming her publicly and irrevocably. "My queen," he murmured against her lips, "my love, my everything." The wedding took place that very night, a vampire ceremony conducted in the throne room. Gemma wore a dress that appeared from somewhere midnight blue silk that fit perfectly, probably worth more than her yearly salary. Xavros changed into formal clothing, all black and silver, and with his crown on his head he looked every inch the king he was. The ceremony itself was beautiful and strange. They spoke vows in a language Gemma didn't understand but somehow felt in her bones. Xavros cut his palm and then hers, pressing their wounds together so their blood mingled. It should have hurt, but instead she felt a rush of warmth, of connection, as if something fundamental clicked into place between them. "Bound by blood, bound by choice," the officiant intoned, "bound by love eternal. I declare you king and queen, now and forever." More cheers. Xavros kissed her again, and Gemma felt the weight of the crown settle on her head literally, as someone placed a delicate silver circlet in her hair. She was a queen now. Queen of the vampires. It was absolutely insane. The feast afterward was surreal. Gemma sat beside Xavros at a high table, watching vampires celebrate with wine that she suspected was not entirely wine. They kept approaching to congratulate her, to pledge their loyalty, to satisfy their curiosity about the human who'd captured their king's heart. Through it all, Xavros never left her side. His hand stayed clasped in hers, his body angled protectively toward her. When one vampire lord got too close, too interested, Xavros's eyes flashed dangerously, and the lord retreated with a hasty bow. "Possessive much?" Gemma murmured. "Extremely." He brought her hand to his lips. "You're mine now. The whole world knows it, and I don't share." Hours later, when the celebration finally wound down, Xavros led her to his private chambers. They were sumptuous, all dark wood and rich fabrics, with a bed large enough to sleep 5 people. The windows were shuttered and sealed, keeping out any hint of daylight. "This is your home now," he said, watching her take it in. "Our home. Though if you hate it, we can change everything, redecorate however you like." "It's perfect." Gemma turned to him. "You're perfect. This whole night has been perfect and terrifying and overwhelming." "I know." He crossed to her, carefully removing the crown from her head and setting it aside. "We moved too fast. I shouldn't have proposed in front of the court, shouldn't have pressured you. You didn't pressure me." She cupped his face, making him look at her. "I chose this. I chose you. Yes, it's fast. Yes, it's scary, but it's also right. I feel it in every cell of my body. We're meant for this. I don't deserve you." "Probably not," she smiled, "but you're stuck with me now, through vampire politics and ancient enemies and whatever else comes our way." He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and they tumbled into the massive bed together. They made love slowly this time, tenderly, learning each other with new certainty. When Gemma finally fell asleep in his arms, wrapped in silk sheets in a palace beneath the city, she felt utterly safe. The next weeks were a whirlwind of adjustment. Gemma quit her job at the clinic with Xavros's funding. They were hiring 3 new nurses and upgrading all the equipment, so she felt good about leaving. Her days became nights, her schedule shifting to match Xavros's. She slept while he handled court business and woke at dusk to rule by his side. Being queen was harder than she'd expected. The vampire court was full of intrigue and politics, ancient feuds and complicated alliances. But Gemma discovered she had a talent for it. Her nursing background made her good at reading people, at seeing beneath the surface, and her outsider status gave her perspective the other vampires lacked. "You're a natural," Xavros told her one night after she'd successfully negotiated peace between 2 feuding houses. "My court hasn't run this smoothly in decades. I just applied basic conflict resolution." But she glowed under his praise. The threat Corvus had revealed never materialized. The vampires from other cities who'd backed his rebellion retreated after his death, unwilling to challenge Xavros directly. Slowly, carefully, the court settled into new stability. But Gemma knew it couldn't last forever. She was still human, still aging while Xavros remained frozen. They needed to talk about the transformation. She brought it up 3 months after their wedding, lying in bed beside him in the hours before dawn. "I'm ready." Xavros went still. "Ready for what?" "To become vampire, to transform." She turned to face him. "I've had time to think, to be sure. And I am. I want forever with you, Xavros. I want to be your true queen, not just a human playing dress-up. I want all of it." "The transformation is agony," he reminded her. 3 days of pain unlike anything you've ever experienced. Your human body will die, cell by cell, and remake itself into something new. Some people go mad from it. Some don't survive. But most do, right? If they're strong enough?" "Yes." He stroked her hair. "And you're the strongest person I know. But I need you to be absolutely certain. Once we begin, there's no going back. You'll never see sunlight again, never taste food the same way, never age or change or grow old. You'll be locked in this moment forever." "I understand." Gemma took his hand, pressing it over her heart. "I choose this. I choose you. I choose forever." Xavros searched her face for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll begin tomorrow. I'll have the physicians prepare everything, and I'll be with you every moment, I swear it. I won't let you suffer alone." The preparations took a week. Vampire physicians examined Gemma thoroughly, making sure her body was strong enough to survive the change. She had to drink special concoctions that tasted terrible, but would supposedly make the transformation easier. And she had to say goodbye to the sun. Her last day as a human, Gemma woke earlier than she had in months. Xavros was already asleep, dead to the world as vampires were during daylight. She slipped from bed carefully, dressing in simple clothes. Celine was waiting outside the chamber, as if she'd expected this. "My queen? I want to see the sun one more time," Gemma said quietly. "Will you take me up?" The vampire woman smiled, something soft and understanding in her expression. "Of course." They ascended through the palace, climbing stairs that led eventually to a hidden exit in an abandoned building. Celine stopped at the final door. "I can't go further, but you have 2 hours until you're expected back. Make them count." Gemma stepped out into the morning sun and gasped. She'd forgotten how beautiful it was, how warm and golden. The city stretched around her, alive with daylight, and she walked through it slowly, soaking in every detail. The way light sparked off windows, the warmth on her skin, the bright blue sky overhead. She bought coffee from a street vendor and sat in the park, watching children play. An old woman sat beside her, commenting on the lovely weather. Gemma agreed, drinking in these last moments of her human life. By the time she returned to the palace, she had no regrets. The sun was beautiful, yes, but Xavros was more beautiful, and forever with him was worth any sacrifice. The transformation began that night. Xavros's physicians laid Gemma on a special bed in a sealed room. Xavros sat beside her, holding her hand as the head physician approached with a silver knife. "The process is simple," the physician explained. "I'll open your veins here and here." She indicated Gemma's wrists. "You'll bleed out, nearly to the point of death. Then the king will feed you his blood directly from his vein. The vampire blood will fight the human cells, destroy them, rebuild them. It will take 3 days. During that time, you'll be in agony. We can give you nothing for the pain. Any drugs would interfere with the transformation." "I understand." Gemma looked at Xavros. "I'm ready." He brought her hand to his lips. "I love you. Remember that. When the pain comes, when you think you can't bear it, remember that I love you, that I'm here, that it will end. I love you too." The physician made the cuts, quick and precise. Blood flowed, hot and red, and Gemma felt her strength begin to drain. Her vision blurred, her heartbeat slowed. The world faded to gray. Then Xavros bit his own wrist, deep, and pressed it to her mouth. "Drink," he commanded. "Drink and live." The blood hit her tongue cold, thick, tasting of copper and something ancient. She swallowed reflexively, and it burned going down, burned like ice and fire combined. She swallowed again and again, drinking desperately as Xavros held her. "That's it," he murmured. "That's my brave love. Just a bit more." The burning spread from her throat to her chest, her stomach, her limbs. It felt like her veins were full of acid, eating her from the inside. Gemma tried to scream but couldn't make a sound. Her body convulsed, fighting the change. "I've got you." Xavros gathered her close, cradling her against his chest. "I've got you, my love. Hold on." The pain escalated beyond anything Gemma had imagined. It felt like dying, because she was dying, her human self burning away to make room for something new. She lost track of time, lost track of everything except the agony and Xavros's voice in her ear, steady and sure, anchoring her to the world. "You're doing so well, so strong. I'm so proud of you." "It hurts," she managed to gasp the words. I know, my love, but you're halfway through. Just hold on a bit longer." Time became meaningless. There was only pain and darkness and Xavros's arms around her, his voice in her ear. Sometimes she screamed, sometimes she wept, sometimes she just shook, her body convulsing as it fought to survive the change. But slowly, gradually, the pain began to shift. It was still there, still intense, but different now. Less like dying and more like being remade. She could feel her body changing, cells rearranging, her heart slowing and then stopping completely. That should have been terrifying, but instead, it felt like relief. She didn't need her heart anymore. Her body had found a new way to exist. On the third day, the pain finally faded. Gemma opened her eyes and the world exploded into color and clarity she'd never imagined. She could see every detail of the room, count the threads in the tapestries. She could hear conversations happening floors away, the whisper of air through the ventilation system, and the scents copper and stone and age, and Xavros's unique scent, cinnamon and midnight and home. "Gemma?" Xavros's voice was tentative, hopeful. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." Her own voice sounded different, more musical. "I can hear you. I can hear everything." She sat up carefully, and the movement was effortless, graceful. Her body felt powerful, perfect. "Did it work? Am I?" "Look." Xavros held up a mirror. Gemma stared at her reflection. Her skin had paled to perfect white, luminous and flawless. Her eyes had changed to silver, bright and inhuman. Her hair had lightened, shifting from dark brown to white blonde. She looked like him now, like a creature of moonlight and shadows. "I'm vampire," she whispered. "You're vampire." Xavros pulled her into his arms, and she could feel his joy, his relief. "You survived. You're here. You're perfect." Gemma kissed him, and with her new senses it was overwhelming. She could taste him more deeply, feel every point of contact between their bodies. Her strength was incredible. She had to be careful not to crush him, though he laughed and told her he could take it. "How do you feel?" he asked when they finally broke apart. "Powerful, clear, like I've been living my whole life in fog, and now I can finally see." She looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers. "Is it always like this?" "The clarity fades after a few days, but the power remains. You'll need to feed soon. Your body is craving blood now, even if you can't feel it yet." He stood, helping her to her feet. "Come, let me show you your new world." They spent the next hours exploring Gemma's new abilities. She was faster than she'd ever imagined possible. She could run through the palace corridors at speeds that blurred the world around her. She was strong enough to lift furniture that had taken 4 servants to move. Her senses were incredible. She could hear heartbeats from rooms away, smell emotions in sweat and breath. "This is amazing," she said, laughing as she tested her reflexes. "I feel like a superhero." "You're a vampire queen." Xavros watched her with adoration. "The most powerful vampire in the court, save for me, and possibly equal to me in time. Your potential is enormous." "Does that bother you, that I might be as strong as you?" "It delights me." He pulled her close. "I've been the strongest for centuries. It's lonely at the top, but now I have an equal, a partner, someone who can stand beside me without fear of being broken." They fed together that night, Xavros teaching her how to drink from donors without harming them. The blood tasted incredible, rich and warm and alive, everything her new body craved. The donors were willing, humans who understood what vampires were and offered their blood freely. Gemma was careful, gentle, taking only what she needed. "You're a natural," Xavros murmured, watching her. "Most new vampires struggle with control, but you're perfect." "I had a good teacher." In the weeks that followed, Gemma settled fully into her new life. Being vampire queen was easier now that she had the power to back up her authority. The other vampires respected her more, seeing her as truly one of them. And the political landscape shifted as word spread the king and queen were united, powerful, unbeatable. The rebels who'd threatened them never made their move. Apparently, a united court with 2 ancient-level vampires at its head was too dangerous to challenge. Slowly, the other cities sent emissaries, pledging loyalty or at least neutrality. "We did it," Xavros told her one night, standing together on a balcony that overlooked their underground realm. "We stabilized the court, made it stronger than it's been in centuries. You did this, Gemma. Your wisdom, your strength. We did it together." She leaned into him, savoring the feel of his body against hers. "That's how it works now. We're a team." "Forever," he agreed, kissing her temple. "For all the centuries ahead, I'll never tire of you, never stop loving you. You're my heart, my queen, my everything." Gemma turned in his arms, rising on her toes to kiss him properly. "And you're mine, my love, my king, my eternal partner." She smiled against his lips. "I can't wait to see what forever brings us." They stood there together as the hours passed, two immortal beings wrapped in each other's arms, secure in the knowledge that they had all the time in the world. No more threats loomed on the horizon, no more enemies plotted in the shadows. For the first time in centuries, the vampire court was at peace. And it was all because a nurse had decided to save a bleeding stranger on her night shift. Because she'd been brave enough to offer shelter, wise enough to see past the danger to the person beneath, strong enough to choose love over fear. 6 months later, Xavros and Gemma stood in the throne room, hosting a gathering of vampire lords and ladies from across the world. It was a celebration not just of their marriage, but of the new era they'd ushered in. An era of stability and strength where the old ways were balanced with new wisdom. "My friends," Xavros addressed the assembled vampires, his voice carrying through the vast space. "Thank you for joining us tonight. For 6 months, Queen Gemma and I have ruled together, and in that time our court has flourished. Trade has increased, conflicts have been resolved. We've maintained our secrecy while improving our quality of life, and it's all because of the woman beside me." Gemma felt her cheeks warm. Apparently some human reactions remained even after transformation. "You're too generous," she murmured. "I'm accurate." He took her hand, raising it high. "To Queen Gemma, my love, my partner, the finest ruler I've ever had the honor of serving beside." "To Queen Gemma." The crowd echoed the toast, raising glasses of blood wine. Later, when the celebration had wound down and they were alone in their chambers, Gemma finally let herself relax. That was exhausting. Does political hosting ever get easier? Not really. Xavros wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "But you were magnificent. Did you see how Lord Demetrius practically bowed and scraped? He fought against your transformation tooth and nail, but now he's your biggest supporter. I negotiated a trade agreement that benefited his house. Of course he supports me." She leaned back against him, content. "I'm learning. Slowly. You're thriving." He turned her in his arms, his expression intense. "I need to tell you something I've been planning." "That sounds ominous." "It's not, I promise." He took both her hands. "I've been thinking about expansion, about building a hospital here, in the vampire realm, a place where humans and vampires can receive care, where research can happen safely. And I want you to run it." Gemma's breath caught. "A hospital? You became a nurse because you wanted to help people. I don't want you to lose that. Don't want politics and power to consume everything you are. So let's build something new, something that combines your medical knowledge with vampire resources. We could revolutionize healthcare for both our species." Tears pricked her eyes. Apparently vampires could cry, though she'd thought it impossible. "You'd do that for me?" "I'd do anything for you." He kissed her softly. "You saved my life that night at the clinic. Let me give you the chance to save thousands more. Build your dream, Gemma. I'll support you in whatever way you need." "I love you." The words felt inadequate for the emotion swelling in her chest. "So much, more than I ever thought possible." "I love you too, more than I have words to express." He rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you for taking a chance on a bleeding stranger. Thank you for seeing past the monster to the man underneath. Thank you for choosing this life, this love, this forever with me." "Best decision I ever made," Gemma said firmly. "And I'd make it again in a heartbeat, or, well, I would if I still had a heartbeat." Xavros laughed, the sound rich and warm. "Your heart may not beat anymore, but it's still the most beautiful thing about you. Your courage, your compassion, your strength. You're everything I never knew I needed." They kissed then, slow and sweet, and Gemma felt the rightness of it settle into her bones. This was where she belonged, in his arms, in this realm, building a future that honored both their pasts. She'd started as a nurse in a free clinic, saving lives one patient at a time. Now she was a vampire queen, with the resources to save thousands, to change the world. And she had forever to do it, forever with Xavros by her side, loving her, supporting her, being her partner in all things. The journey had been fast and chaotic and sometimes terrifying, but it had led her here, to this moment, to this love that would last through all the centuries to come. "What are you thinking?" Xavros murmured against her hair. "That I'm happy," Gemma said simply. that despite all the chaos and danger and impossibility, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. With you. Forever. Forever, he agreed, pulling her closer. And every moment of it will be an adventure. He was right, Gemma knew. Their lives would never be simple. They had a court to rule, enemies to watch for, an entire species to guide into the future. But they'd face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart, king and queen, man and wife. Two immortal beings who'd found each other against all odds and built something beautiful from the ashes of danger. Years passed in their underground realm, each one bringing new challenges and triumphs. The hospital Xavros had promised became reality, a state-of-the-art facility where Gemma could practice medicine, enhanced by vampire resources and human ingenuity. They developed new treatments, new technologies, saving lives that would have been lost before. The vampire court continued to thrive under their joint rule. Other cities looked to them as an example, and slowly, carefully, the entire vampire world began to shift. Old feuds were set aside, new alliances formed. The species that had hidden in shadows for millennia began to dream of a different future, not one where they revealed themselves to humanity, but one where they could exist with more freedom, more peace. Through it all, Gemma and Xavros remained steadfast partners. They disagreed, sometimes passionate arguments that echoed through the palace halls, but they always found their way back to each other. Because beneath the crowns and the politics and the weight of their responsibilities, they were simply two people who loved each other more than anything else in the world. One night, a decade after Gemma's transformation, they stood together in the throne room, alone for once. The day's business was done, the court dismissed, and they had these precious hours to themselves. "Do you ever regret it?" Xavros asked quietly. "Giving up your human life? The sun, the simplicity?" "Never," Gemma answered without hesitation. "I gave up one life, but I gained something infinitely better. I gained you. I gained purpose and power and the ability to make real change in the world. I gained forever." She took his hand. "Do you regret asking me? Binding yourself to someone so young, so inexperienced?" "Not for a single moment." He pulled her into his arms. "You walked into my life when I was at my lowest point, broken and bleeding and certain I would die. And you saved me not just physically, but in every way that matters. You gave me hope again, purpose, love." He kissed her softly. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me in 600 years of existence." "Only the best?" she teased. "The only thing that matters," he corrected, his voice turning serious. "Everything else, the throne, the power, the centuries of history, it all pales compared to you. You're my world, Gemma, my everything." They kissed under the vast ceilings of the throne room, two immortal beings wrapped in a love that would literally last forever. Outside their realm, the human world continued its frantic pace, oblivious to the vampire kingdom thriving beneath the city. But here, in this moment, nothing else mattered except the two of them. The nurse who'd stitched a bleeding stranger on her night shift had become a queen. The vampire king who'd stumbled into a free clinic dying had found his perfect match. And together, they'd built something neither could have imagined alone, a love story for the ages, a partnership that would shape their species' future, a happiness that would endure through all the centuries to come. As dawn approached and they retired to their chambers, wrapped in each other's arms, Gemma felt nothing but contentment. This was her life now, her forever, and she wouldn't change a single moment of it. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Xavros whispered back. "Today, tomorrow, and for all eternity." And in the safety of their realm, surrounded by the court they'd built and the love they shared, they drifted into the vampire's daytime sleep, secure in the knowledge that when they woke, they'd face the night together. Always together, forever and ever and ever. The end came not with drama or danger, but with peace. Years stretched into decades, decades into centuries, and through it all, Gemma and Xavros ruled side by side. Their love never faded, never diminished. If anything, it grew stronger, deeper, richer with every passing year. They watched the world change from their underground realm. Technology advanced, human society shifted and evolved. And through it all, the vampires adapted, survived, thrived under the guidance of their king and queen, who understood both the old ways and the new. Gemma's hospital became legendary, a place where breakthroughs happened regularly, where the impossible became routine. She saved countless lives, both human and vampire, and never lost the compassion that had made her a nurse in the first place. Xavros, with Gemma's support and wisdom, transformed the vampire courts into something new, still maintaining their secrecy, but with less fear and more purpose. They were no longer simply hiding and surviving. They were building, creating, contributing to the world in ways that mattered. And every night, when the business of ruling was done, they came together in their chambers and reminded each other why they'd chosen this life. They talked and laughed and made love with the passion of newlyweds, despite the centuries passing around them, because true love didn't fade with time. It only grew stronger. On their 100th anniversary, a century since that night when Gemma had stitched a bleeding stranger and changed both their lives forever, they stood once more in the throne room, surrounded by vampires from across the world who'd come to celebrate. 100 years, Xavros said, addressing the crowd with Gemma's hand clasped firmly in his. A century of love, of partnership, of building something greater than either of us could have achieved alone. My queen has been my strength, my wisdom, my joy, and I thank whatever fate brought her to me that night when I was dying and desperate. And I thank whatever impulse made me look past the impossible and see the man who needed saving, Gemma added. Xavros gave me forever, but more than that, he gave me purpose. He gave me a love worth living for, worth fighting for, worth every sacrifice and every choice I made. They kissed as the crowd cheered, and Gemma felt the same rush of emotion she'd felt that very first night. This was right. This was perfect. This was everything she'd never known she wanted. Later, alone once more, Xavros presented her with a gift, a locket containing a single photograph. It was her, from before the transformation, standing in her scrubs outside the clinic, young and human and so impossibly fragile. "Where did you get this?" she asked, touching the image gently. "I had someone retrieve it from the clinic's security footage years ago. I wanted to remember the woman who saved me, exactly as she was that night." He closed her fingers around the locket. "You're different now, stronger, more powerful, more confident. But the heart that made you help a dying stranger, that hasn't changed. That never will change. And that's what I love most about you." Gemma felt tears slip down her cheeks, crystalline and precious. "You're going to make me cry. Good tears, I hope. The best tears." She tucked the locket against her chest over her silent heart. "Thank you. For this. For everything. For giving me a life beyond my wildest dreams. Thank you for choosing me," Xavros said softly, "for looking at a bleeding vampire and deciding he was worth saving. You changed my world, Gemma Thorne. You became my world, and I'll spend every night of our eternity making sure you never regret that choice." "I won't," she promised. I couldn't. Because you're my world too. My love, my partner, my forever." They stood together as they had so many times before, two immortal beings bound by love and choice and blood. The story that had begun with a desperate man stumbling into a free clinic had become an epic romance spanning centuries. The nurse who'd stitched a bleeding stranger had become a legendary queen. The vampire king who wouldn't leave had found the one person in all the world who could make eternity feel like not quite enough time. And as they faced the endless nights ahead, hand in hand and heart to heart, they knew with absolute certainty that their story would never truly end. Because true love, the kind that survives transformation and danger and the passage of centuries, is eternal. Their love would outlast kingdoms and empires. It would endure through all the changes time could bring. It would be whispered about in vampire courts for millennia to come, the story of the king and the nurse, the ruler and the healer, two souls who found each other in the darkness and created a light that would never fade. And every night, when they woke to face their immortal responsibilities, they did so together. Always together. Because that was what they'd chosen, that night when a bleeding stranger stumbled through a clinic door and a brave nurse decided to save his life. they'd chosen each other, and in doing so, they'd chosen forever. The epilogue to their story wasn't written in grand gestures or dramatic moments. It was written in the quiet spaces between, in shared smiles across the throne room, in whispered conversations in the deep hours of night, in the comfortable silence of two people who knew each other so completely that words weren't always necessary. It was written in the hospital Gemma built and the lives she saved, in the peaceful court Xavros maintained and the species he guided into a new era. In the children, they eventually adopted young vampires, orphaned by tragedy, who found a home and family with the king and queen, who understood that love came in many forms. It was written in the way Xavros still looked at Gemma after 2 centuries, as if she were the most precious thing in all the world. In the way Gemma still reached for his hand first, whenever she needed strength or comfort, or simply wanted to feel connected. Their story was written in 1,000 small moments of love and trust and partnership, and it would continue to be written for as long as they existed, which promised to be a very, very long time indeed. Because some love stories don't end. They just keep unfolding, chapter after chapter, century after century, forever and ever and ever. And this was one of those stories. The nurse stitched a bleeding stranger on her night shift. By dawn, the vampire king wouldn't leave, and neither of them would ever be alone again.